Welcome to Rooted to Thrive, conversations to elevate our humanity. I'm your host, Rochelle Peterson Ansari, Professor P for short. This is your podcast sanctuary for cultivating mindsets and skills to elevate our shared humanity. We're taking a deep dive into practical strategies to evolve as anti-racist, culturally competent, and inclusive individuals and leaders. In each episode, we're bringing you real-world examples and actionable takeaways. We're going to talk about personal growth, fostering connection, and creating positive change that dismantles systemic barriers and creates environments where all of us are valued, empowered, and activate our collective power. This is Rooted to Thrive. Hi there. Welcome and welcome back to everyone joining us on Rooted to Thrive, Conversations to Elevate Our Humanity podcast. I am your host, Rochelle Peterson Ansari, aka Professor P. Today, we have the honor of having Dr. Durene Wheeler, who has worked in higher education as a student affairs professional for 10 years and as a faculty member in colleges of education and arts and sciences for over 20 years. And as a first-generation college student, she believes that she must bridge the gap for marginalized and disenfranchised students while teaching them to navigate academic culture successfully. Now, more importantly, Durene is a sister friend and family. We met in Vermont many years ago. And as she was beginning her work at the University of Vermont's admissions office, I was leaving that office and starting grad school there. When I tell you it was instant, right? Our connection was instant. And you'll see, I think we have similar thoughts about educating other people's children. She cares deeply about other people's children, whether they are her students in the college classroom or in the pre-K-12 classrooms where her students are preparing to teach. So Durene, I am so honored to have you joining me today to share just a little bit of your light that you shared with me and so many other people today. How are you doing?
I am blessed and highly favored and excited to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Yes, I am so excited to have you speak on critical and compassionate classroom. So to get started, would you please share what it means to create critical and compassionate pre-K to 20 classrooms and how that elevates our humanity?
Well, for me, first, I define critical and compassionate classrooms from the scholarship of Bell Hooks, her Teaching to Transgress for 1994. Like blew my mind. I came across it during my master's program, and ever since have grounded everything I do in higher education and just in life, trying to use education as an emancipatory form and a liberatory form, but also one that engages an intellectual and engages the various learning styles of the students and your audience or whoever you're working with. So for me, critical and compassionate classrooms are those where intellectual rigor and an emotional support coexist, creating environments that nurture both the mind and the heart. And recently I was able to write a commentary that I submitted to the Journal for Mental Health and Social Behavior that kind of introduces some of the tenets of what I feel are the psychosocial benefits of us having these type of classrooms. We see this a lot of the scholarship that has come out about the post-pandemic pedagogy and how we need to change. But when I think about my practices, when I think about scholars that I've learned from, like Lisa Delpit, Michelle Foster, Joyce King, Cynthia Dillard, Cynthia Tyson, Beverly Guy Sheftall, Patricia Hill Collins, all of them, and who also happen to be Black feminists and Black scholars, all have consistently talked about, just like my love fangirl of Bell Hooks, the need to bring love into the classroom and the
Yes.
need to foster critical thinking and critical conversations and critical dialogues. And I really, really feel like when I think about, some of the tenets and the benefits of doing this with your teaching is you create a community of belonging. And that is one of the things that we constantly hear are a problem for retaining students. Is they don't feel a sense of belonging or inclusion and connectedness. If you foster these tenets that I feel of exposing yourself as an educator, as a genuine, living, breathing human being that comes in some days, I tell my students, oh, I'm a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10 today, y'all. Or today I'm a 1, I'm just here. And y'all can just be here too. And we gonna just be here together, you know? But
Yes.
we gonna get through. But it's like they can see that it's okay for them to come in there and be at their lowest and be like, Dr. Wheeler, don't ask me nothing. I just be thankful I'm in class today. And I am. But by the time they leave that class, because we also need to create interactive classes that creates and fosters critical dialogue and critical consciousness and give people readings, podcasts, lessons, cartoons. I use everything in my teaching, Rochelle. I use it all. I use current TV, past TV. I use autobiographies. I use fiction. I use poetry. I use spoken word. Whatever is going to hook them.
Yes.
Because I feel like it's just like when I'm thinking about teaching a child to read. People were like, why are you letting him read Captain Underpants? I was like, because he's reading. And I can deconstruct the harm of some of the stuff in there when we talk about the comprehension part, but get them to the class. Make them want to be in the class.
Yes.
So I have like 7 tenets that I feel are characteristics of these type of classrooms that foster critical thinking, critical consciousness, but compassion and caring for each individual member of that community and where they are, and honoring where they are. And we as the educators use the 6 weeks, the 8 weeks, the 5 weeks, the 10 weeks, the 16 weeks to scaffold them to their ultimate potential. But we have to meet them where they are.
Meet them where they are. Thank you. And I want to, because I want the people to hear about the tenants, but I want them to hear a little more about you, because you kind of gave them a little bit about your parenting. And I'm in awe of what you have done with your son. But I want to back up even a little further and have them hear more about your background and how you became involved in this work. Like, what made you begin to teach the way you teach? Or what can you draw on? What do you draw?
First and foremost, I think is because I was blessed to grow up in de facto segregation, in predominantly schools where most of my teachers, and I am not ashamed to say this, whether this is appropriate or not, were predominantly Black women, strong Black women educators. The 2 white teachers that I had my whole pre-K, my whole kindergarten through 12th grade were phenomenal, caring and critical and compassionate educators. So this was modeled for me. Miss Fry was my 2nd grade teacher, the first white teacher and white person I ever met off of TV, basically, because like I say, I grew up in Cleveland and it was segregated. Wasn't by law, that's why I say de facto, because that's de jure. But, this was the 70s, and these teachers cared about us, and they modeled for me this is how you are a public servant. This is
Mm-hmm.
how you pour into the public good of the community and the future generations of individuals and people that you need to be pouring into because they poured into us daily.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just regurgitate, memorization, that banking system that Paulo Ferry talks about. It was, you need to learn for meaning's sake so that here I am, I can still talk to somebody about the water cycle that I learned about in third and fourth grade because of how they had us draw it, had us act it out, had us like do a little report on it. Like, I mean, like it was so many ways that they assessed our learning. And that helped me open up to know that that's how I need to do, whether I'm in kindergarten, third grade, fifth grade, freshman, sophomore, all of us,
Mm-hmm.
young learners, adult learners, we need to make learning fun.
Yeah, yes, yes. And you have another part of your background that I know about. And I dare say it may have something to do with how you show up in the classroom too. And that is your experience in student affairs.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Yes, right? Please
yes,
talk
most
about it.
definitely. Yeah. And that's another piece of it beyond just my own K through 12 experiences. Working in the creator led me to higher education and student affairs, like right out of undergrad. Went to admissions. Uh, I was assistant director of Black Student Affairs at my alma mater, the College of Worcester, Ohio. Shout out. And left there and came to University of Vermont with you. And so like all of these environments, and then did Res Life and student activities, but being a student affairs professional helped me understand, um, just like our Masters in Community and Teacher Leaders program at Northeastern puts community organizers and community activists and pre through K teachers in the classroom, it melded the theory to practice for me. So all of the things that I learned about in disability services, about just putting on my syllabus, if you have accommodations, if you need assistance, see me within the first 2 weeks of class so we can work it out, so I can be there for you, so I can support you.
Yes.
Like I came to my institution and people were like, when I said that to them, you would have thought I was speaking like some kind of like crazy code or something. I was like, what? Like, how do you not know this? But student affairs, being in disability services, that peeped me to that. But it also peeped me to what, as a first generation, peeped me to the horrors, okay? And I did not hesitate, horrors that student affairs professionals and faculty members put me through because I didn't understand how to navigate and negotiate academic culture and language.
Can you talk a little more about that?
Uh, like a first-year student told, because they want to do pre-engineering or pre-law or pre-med, that they need to be taking a science class, a math class, and English language arts class and some other thing, and they up to like 18, 20 something credit hours and two hard freaking classes. They got bio lab, calculus this, plus the English. Who needs to be doing that in your freshman year when you trying to get your legs on to even understand, because every faculty member think they class the only class in the world.
Right. And that's the
So
model, right, of weeding people out, right?
exactly. But it's
Mhm.
like, if I'm first gen,
Mhm.
if I'm new to this environment, like, and you tell me as an advisor, because sometimes I don't think advisors be doing harm. They following a script they've been told as well.
Mhm.
But the reality of it is, one size does not fit all. Just because that's the model does not mean that that's what I need to do for little Durene Wheeler or little D-Man or little Bobby Blue or whatever, or Susie Q.
Right.
Because you need to find out, what are your strengths and limitations. And as a first year student,
Mhm. Yeah.
even a transfer student, you
Mhm.
in a new environment, you need to understand what Lisa Delpit calls the code of language, and how to understand what are the cues, and how do I navigate and negotiate this new land
Yes. Yes.
that we call higher ed.
Yes, Doreen, you brought up something that made me remember when I was a first year student, right? So, I was 16. So, on top of all of that, right? I was probably 2 years younger than most people. And I went away to college, and there was an advisor in arts and sciences, in the arts and sciences. I went in bio pre-med, needless to say, I did not continue. But at the time, all I knew was I wanted something prestigious. People were calling me smart. All I knew, doctors, lawyers, right? So I'll choose doctor over nurse, by the way, because I knew something. I thought there was something about being a nurse that it was like I was being relegated to as a woman. Yeah. So, but anyway, this advisor brings me in, it must have been, it was mid-semester. Mid-semester grades had come out, or, they're not real grades, but these mid-semester kind of gauges that you get in college come out. And I had a D on the curve in my major, right? In that big bio course where they tell you, look to the left, look to the right, right? That person next to you won't be here tomorrow. So I was one of those people. But listen, this was the deep thing. This advisor then tells me, what my options are that I could withdraw, something that I didn't know. I'm sure they told us in orientation, but they tell you so many things that you don't remember everything. That I could withdraw because I was a freshman, right? Like by a certain point, or I could continue. And I knew the best grade I was going to get was a D because I had a D on a curve at that point. And it really was about rote memorization, right? That I just didn't do well with that. So I decided to withdraw as a first year student within that time frame that they allow you to, so that you don't get an F on your transcript. I am so forever grateful that they had a system in place, that she was an assistant dean, reached out to me, because literally when I came in, I'm thinking I would never quit. I would never leave a class, right? I would never leave. You need people who know that we don't know what we don't know. That's all new students, but particularly first generation students, first generation to college, need that information, right?
And that's cultural too.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
That could be a cultural indicator for certain people, because we have been raised, you can't quit.
Yeah.
You can't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that can be all kind of triggers for you too, because I was told I could lead that chemistry class, but I felt like if I left that chemistry class like you, I was quitting and I was failing my family. Versus if I had to drop that, like they told, like somebody like Chip Allen, my big brother, was our intern in the Office of Black Student Affairs at the time, because that's what they called it. And he told me, he said, sister, let it go. And I was like, no, girl, fat meat was greasy. Pop me in the eye. I listen.
Thank you for that. Yeah. But you talked about things being cultural, right? Like, so that we're bringing our cultures into these classrooms. How does that connect to these critical, compassionate classrooms that you're creating?
Well, because I feel like a lot of times, as we have consistently seen, is people don't know holistic history. And by not knowing things, people make assessments, they make assumptions, or they even say downright untrue falsehoods. Purposely, some people, we don't need to say their names. Other people, I don't think it's on purpose. And I feel like if I'm preparing teachers, which is primarily what I do, I work with pre-service and in-service teachers in the classes that I teach. I work with people that are trying to get their master's in teaching secondary ed, K through 12, but I also teach in AFAM, African American Studies, Women's and Gender Studies. But all of these people are going to be working with the larger society. So I need to teach them the true multi-histories of how we got where we got, so that they don't walk out of my class with a deficit view of women, or a deficit view of LGBTQ students, or a deficit view of critical race theory, a deficit view of critical thinking, or a critical consciousness, or the ability to see a problem and try to come up with a solution versus just complaining about it.
Okay, now.
But acting and understanding research allows us the skills and abilities to talk to the people with the dollars to get the grants, which is free money versus the loans, to help our students, to help our communities. And I feel like the content that I teach, the way I teach, my students are learning just as much about one another in our classes as they are about the content. And that is going to allow, especially those that want to go into teaching or public service or anything with the community, to have a network and a village of support that they can reach back to. To say, remember, I had you in Dr. Wheeler's class. I see that you're an alderman on such and such now. Could you da 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 da? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Or come back to me. Because once you're my student, they know they always my student. Like, I got one biological child, but I got a world that God has blessed me with so many children because of who God has put in my class.
Now, you talked about people, if they were working with people in the community or, in schools, but really, that preparation is for any industry, right? Like any public work they're going to do, which, that could be a job in tech or, in business, because you're talking about putting people first. You said that they not only learn the content, but they learn from each other. Talk to me about how they learn from each other and take that out into the world.
Well, first and foremost, ever since we've done this hybrid model, because my first day of class is like, we need to get to know who we are, and you need to know what I expect, and you need to know what to expect from me and IU. So I instituted this new This Is Me video. And so it's their first assignment, and they have to do a video. And even if somebody is incompetent in tech phobia as me, right, can created a video too, in fact, and showed them how to do it, whether they want to do it with images. People that are more high tech, they do more high tech ones. But basically, it's like, who are you? And you define that. Like in my sample, I say I'm Durene Wheeler. I am the third daughter of Mary Wheeler. I'm a Capricorn queen. I'm a single mom. I'm a proud Black woman. Don't call me African American because Black, sorry. Like, it's just like I do that stuff. And then what motivates you? So I get to know how to be with them. We get to know what motivates them. What is a trigger? Like, what is something that's going to deflate you or shut you down or turn you off? And these are also skills that when I teach EDFN 307 or 407 psychology of learning and instruction, I tell my teachers, you should create a one-pager that you send out to the parents to find out about them and find out about their child. So you have that be your first communique with them, versus first time you call me, well, Doreen acted up in class today. Oh, and that's the first time I'm going to talk to you and you think we're going to be cool?
Right.
So I teach them by modeling and being authentic and being open with myself. And in other classes, it might be, what was your favorite school moment or your least favorite school moment? Who was the teacher that had your back? And why would you say that they need a Golden Apple Award, which is one of our most prestigious awards here in Illinois. So it's just different ways. And even the check-in questions, like, one day I might ask them like we did, the 1 to 10 or the 1 to 5, but another day I might be like, describe your mood using a movie. Okay. And Groundhog Day comes up because somebody say I'm going around and around and around. Die Hard comes up because people want to blow some stuff up because the world is crazy. Okay. Twister came up. I told him for me because I felt like I had too many things going on and I'm about to get caught up and I need to ground myself.
Yes.
What's your favorite lyric or your favorite song or your favorite poem according to the weather? I use so many things to get to know them, to allow them to tell us a little bit about who they are, even just the first 10 minutes of check-in in the class.
So what I wrote down as you were speaking was centering knowing your students versus it being about knowing what the professor knows, right? Like that it's for the professor, the instructor to know the student, right? And you talked about knowing, even that 1 in 5 or 1 in 10 is centering their humanity, right? That they're not robots, they're not on every day. So they're going to miss some things. And should we not give them a pass? Occasionally, right? We know that there's going to be 1 or 2,
But that's that compassion piece. That's
right.
that caring piece. And that's, like you said, that's that humanity, because even we have to sometimes put on a front and perform when we go in class. Because if I just got a call that my mom went to the hospital, but I got to teach in 10 minutes.
Right.
I got to have my little pity party for my 9 minutes and then get on point.
Right. That's right.
And I'll let my students know, I'll be like, you know what, y'all? On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 is I'm here. Don't talk to me no more, Dr. Wheeler. 2 is I'm okay. I'm working through some stuff, but I'm okay. 3 is I am hopeful because all this is going to get better. 4 is I am good. Let's do this. And 5 is I'm awesome and ready for the ward. I'm a 2. I'm a 2, y'all.
So what happens, like say there's the students that have the 2, right? How do you manage in the classroom when you have that person? Like, how
When
might
I
you
have
treat
that,
them?
right, when I have that person, we all acknowledge that. And then they still get in a small group. If we have a small group, they still they can choose to participate in that group or just be in listening mode, but they are included throughout whatever is happening. If we're a remote class versus physically in class and we're doing something, then they're still included with that. But I might not call on them. If I know that, I might not say, Rochelle, what do you think about it? I might do something private, message in the chat, a direct message saying, you okay? Feel free to chime in if you want, but I'm not gonna like push you like I normally do.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why you have received the top honors in excellence in teaching at your university. It was too long in coming, but it came. But that's one of the reasons, right? Because your students, I'm sure, evaluated in their evaluations, shared that kind of care and compassion. So I'm curious in terms of promoting, liberation, right? You do have a larger number of Black and Brown students at your institution than some at predominantly white institutions. And I wonder about what are some of the common challenges you might encounter in promoting anti-racism or eradicating, in other words, eradicating the supremacy of whiteness, and how you might have addressed those challenges.
When I first started teaching, I would get on my evaluations from certain individuals. I didn't know this was a women's studies class. I didn't know this was a Black studies class. I didn't know this was Latino studies class. I thought this was educational history. I didn't know. I don't like that this class made me feel bad about being white. I was like, that's your problem. Because first of all, if I'm teaching educational history and philosophy, And maybe that, that's another conversation, but maybe that's why y'all trying to appeal abortion and all this other kind of stuff, because you think white folks about to get wiped out, but that's a whole nother conversation. But anyway, on point, these histories, because it's sad when I have people that have gone on to other careers and come back and never heard of Native American boarding schools, never heard of the Japanese internment camps, never heard of taking land and policies and things away from Mexican Americans and forcing them out, never heard of Chicano school movement. Everybody know Brown versus the Board of Education, but don't know Shinola about the year after Brown 2 that took away and came up with all deliberate speed. And that's why segregation was delayed up until the 70s. This is why you need to know these things.
Right.
And they, at first I had people pushing back, but then the word must have got out, because people that want to know these things, because I've been teaching there 18 years this fall, they are in my classes. And even certain people that, they're like, this is all so negative. Yes.
The truth.
But the thing is, sometimes things ain't rainbows and sunshine.
That's right.
And you got to break some eggs to make an omelet. So in order for me to help you to understand those young people sitting in front of you and where they came from and what her stories and histories and backgrounds were that got them to where they are, so that you can see them as a human being, then I need to teach you this.
Yeah. You're also elevating their perspective, their understanding of the systems that they're going to enter and have been a part of, right?
Exactly.
Like, they have to understand how the systems were designed.
Right. And why things are still perpetuated.
Right.
Because I'm so sick of people saying, why are we talking about this? Because we haven't fixed it. Because we haven't dealt with it, because we live like the ostrich with our heads stuck in the sand and our booty is up in the air as a target for weaponization and getting our butt kicked. Like, come on.
Yes. And nobody was talking about that.
No.
Right? People weren't talking about it. That is the greatest gap that I have found in teacher education, right? Like, I will just say, in our education system, whether it's pre-K to 12 or college, is that there's always this gap around, not for every major, right? Because sociology, you have that in your background. You will critique your society, right? You will study society and values and so on and so forth, and anthropology, maybe in psychology and so on and so forth. But across the board, we're not looking at the impact of the decisions that were made in the past that bring us to where we are today.
Exactly.
Right? And then we complain about educational systems. Well, people want to, or not the system, people complain about children and their families as if, well, again, that's that deficit perspective.
Right.
Where does that come from? A gap in having the very information you're talking about.
Exactly. And helping them to understand, like, that's the one thing that I feel like God put me here, because these people, I have had people say, you know what, Dr. Wheeler, I'm not up to being a public servant, so I don't want to do teaching. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Right.
Going over there. Go yeah.
Right. No, and
it's better. It is better, because I have my students do an educational autobiography. And to this day, like I said, I've been teaching for 18 years. To this day, I still get at least 5 out of 15 students or 5 out of 10 students that they have had such a traumatizing educational experience that is why they're here, because they don't want that to happen to nobody else. And that is so, like, I used to get more, but I'm telling you, it's still disheartening, because when you read that, it's like, how could you treat a child like that? But then you think about the civil rights and every other kind of battle. The children always bear the brunt.
Yes. And say more about that. Like, So I'm imagining the trauma is not always around race.
No, it's about not educating them. It's about not seeing them as little people. Like, and I don't know what the study is, but my girl, Dr. Perlo, would know. But there's a study that talks about how Black and brown children are seen as adults as early as like third grade, and they
Mhm,
are adultified.
mhm,
So their little mistakes are elevated, okay,
mhm, mhm,
to a whole different level. And I saw it firsthand when my son was in third grade and I had to roll up on the school. Okay. And I
mhm.
mean, roll up, y'all, roll up. That's what you got to do. Anybody get a community together, roll up on the teacher
Brother.
in the school. But anyway, I sits up in the classroom and I see how this woman is trauma, and it ain't just race. It was some gender bias going on up in that classroom. Because anytime the two little Susie Q's is playing with the little Hello Kitty when you doing a lecture and you ain't said jack to them, but the little Jewish boy gets out his seat to go get a dictionary, and when you tell them to get resources and you're like, why you out your seat?
Gender
He on
bias.
task.
Right,
You let that go.
right. Exactly. That's right. That's right.
And
And
my own child coming home telling me, saying, like at 7 or 8, what you in third grade, 7 or 8? I feel like I can't do anything to please her. Girl,
mm,
he told the wrong mama that.
okay.
Well,
Okay.
maybe the right mama. I don't know, but I'm engage people.
Okay. That's
Because my mother modeled for me
okay.
as a single parent. No matter what was going on, she made time to be up at that school if she could, because she did not trust people. And that was, like I told you before, we had Black and brown folk in the schools, and she still was suspect. So if we can, we have to be over these teachers. So if you in my class and you want to teach,
Mhm.
you got to go through some stuff to get out of my class.
Yes. And I can imagine, someone might be hearing like, oh, you're just talking about white folks. No, we talking
No,
about
baby. No, no, no.
all
Because let me
minorities.
break it down and make it plain. Let me make it plain.
Mhm,
As a first generation, some of us go to these schools and high schools that did not prepare us for college. And I have gotten students, no matter your color, your creed, whatever, you can't write a complete sentence. So that's another thing. I'm talking about your academic skill level, and you want to teach, but yet you don't want to do this, that, these, and those. And if you don't want to read, like I tried to tell my son when he was talking about law, you don't want to read, you don't need to think about that. There are some professions, folks, that calls for you to go beyond some of your skill set and
mhm.
some of the things you don't like to do. And
Right.
teaching, as we know, this day and age, yes, you supposed to do this little window of what your job description, but anybody who been working long enough know your job description, you always got this other duties as assigned crap. And anything can fall up in that trick bag parking lot. So I'm sorry.
That's okay. That is okay. Well, yeah, but before we run out of time, I definitely want to get to some other practical strategies, because I think that you have shared quite a few already, but some of the practical strategies that leaders and educators can implement to prioritize the well-being of the people they serve. So you mentioned 7 tenets a little earlier.
Yeah, so for my classrooms, I want my students to be actively engaged and participate, and that could be various levels. It doesn't mean just because you're always talking or you're raising your hand that you're participating. To me, you come into class, you being in your small group, you working with them, maybe not talking to the bigger group or whatever, that's participation. And also I feel like helping them have a sense of belonging, and this goes to corporate people as well. If I do not feel that you see me as a human being, if I do not feel like my voice matters, but it is just a checklist on something for you to have me in the room, but you don't want my voice or my perspective, or you don't really care about how I'm feeling or thinking, I'm not going to connect, because you're not being genuine and I'm not going to be able to be genuine. The other thing is we need to collaborate with our students in the learning process. I have the last 3 weeks of class open so that if there's something that they wanted to cover or something happens, like when the election happened, when DACA was under attack, we took those days in class to process that. When the Ukrainian war and things like that, when things are happening in a society that is impacting my students, you need to create wiggle room in your schedule to have some time for that and to process that. Because we all know psychologically, socially, emotionally, you cannot learn, participate, or do anything if you are in fight or flight. And if I'm not attending to the human beings in front of me that are fearful because of election results or fearful because DACA is being overturned, and some of my students are a part of that, or people they know are a part of that, or some of my students have relatives and family that are Palestinian or that are involved in Ukraine or left over, I need to attend to that. I'm not saying every class, but I'm saying when you know something has happened, attend to that. Reach out to the students, reach out to your workers, ask them, how can we be better? That's a simple, open-ended question. If I'm supervising somebody, the first thing I do when I meet with them is I'm like, I want to know who they are. I look at their jacket and all that kind of stuff. But just like you did with me, who are you? What motivates you? What is going to help you to shine? What is going to help you to grow? Who do you want to be 3 to 5 years from now? If it's me, like when I was director of the Pedroso Center, then what do I need to do in my time with you to groom you to take my spot or a higher spot, if that's what you
Okay, good
so.
stuff. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, is there any advice you would give? I mean, that was a lot of advice, but would you give to someone who's looking to improve as anti-racist, as culturally competent, or inclusive in their practices?
Read all the stuff that you can. You know
Okay.
the scholars, but I think first and foremost, go to the mirror,
Mm,
look at who you are, examine yourself thoroughly.
yes.
What do you believe?
Mhm,
What do you value? What are your triggers? What are your biases, conscious or unconscious?
mhm.
And then what do you want to do with your life 3 to 5 years from now?
Okay.
And come up with a plan.
I love that. And I would dare say that when they're looking in the mirror, sometimes they need an outside source to help them be that mirror for them because biases are so ingrained in us, right? That
Yes.
it can, particularly our unconscious biases, right? So it takes other people to
Oh,
actually
yeah.
help us see
That
ourselves.
would be my last thing is reach out. Like when you're doing that examination and whether you fall short or not, always reach out and have a community of people because I tell my son, I don't send nothing out with 1 or 2 other people looking at it. I don't like to jump into anything without running it, especially something major, without running it past my close sister, friends, family. And like Rochelle said, a lot of times you might come up and see things in you that you don't want to declare, but ask a close person. That is the beauty of long-term friends because they know you win and
They
they
will
will tell
tell the
the
truth.
truth. If they truly love you, they will say, yeah, sometimes you can be a trick bag. You can. But your intention and your impact, like we need to talk about that too. But
That's
thank
right.
you for sharing.
Yes, thank you, thank you. And so finally, are there any resources, books, courses, organizations that you would recommend for people to gain faith further learning?
Oh my God, girl. I
Yeah,
should have CRSAIA, Critical Race Studies in Education Association. All of Bell Hook's work, like that is, I just feel like all of her stuff, Erica Davila's stuff, Rochelle and Perceptions Unlimited, My friend, if you're in Illinois, Dr. Logan's Consulting Services. Girl, shoot, I need to give you a list, but I mean,
Oh,
right
yeah,
now, even my own book, Black Women's Liberatory Pedagogies, Transform,
yes.
and like that book is a great book. And colleague Erica Davila, Annie Aviles, like all of their work is phenomenal with helping you understand not only schools, but communities and histories and her stories. And I'm working on my own stuff right now, be sending it out. And then I also will be launching teaching as public service, public good, going to be a PD that I'm offering in August. I'll be sending that out. And then I decided to open a monthly affinity group for teachers. It's going to start in August, and it's called Teachable Moments, sharing and chatting with Dr. Wheeler. And I'll be
Oh,
offering that monthly free to educators. It'll be a Zoom. So whether you're in Illinois or wherever, just to check in and help people through, teaching and learning, and just my way of giving back to the community.
wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Wow, 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 wow. I still, we came up around the same time. I wish I were a student in one of your classes.
I
Yes.
feel the same about you, so.
I love
And I
it.
got to be at one of your workshops. So let me tell y'all, if y'all want somebody that's gonna come and bring it and help your people, you better call Dr. P.
Well, thank you. I'm humbled by that. I appreciate you. And of course, I feel the same way about you. Yeah, so we don't know when this is going to air, but we will try to make sure that it gets out around the time that we can help promote the work that you're doing this year. Yes?
Awesome, girl.
Awesome.
Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you, and best of luck.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for being so generous, as usual, with your time and your expertise. Is there a way for people to find you or contact you? So for people who are listening, if you could share
Oh, yeah. So
where
my
you want to
email is Dr. Wheeler, WIP, DRWHEELER, WIP @gmail.com. Or if you want to reach me through Northeastern Illinois University, it's D-WHEELER @NEIU.edu. And those are the best ways to reach me, via email. And I also have Instagram is Imani Reflects, and I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Wonderful. So I want to thank you again. And to everyone who stopped by, thank you. And please leave a comment, share this episode. Thank you again for listening to Rooted to Thrive.